Hello, everyone. Lori here. Welcome to my How Do You Spirit podcast. And today I have a very special guest with me. Kathy comes all the way from Oklahoma, and we are going to talk a little bit about her spiritual story and something that I am very, very new to. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you.
Please bear with me today. Super excited about this, but this is my first video podcast and still trying to kind of learn the ropes and figure out how everything works. It took us a minute to get things going, but here we are and we're ready to roll. So, Kathy, how would you say, or when would you say your spiritual journey started? Like, when do you think that you started feeling connected to spirit?
I would have to say I was a pretty young age. So not realizing that I was connected to spirit, it was all hindsight.
Okay.
I've always been very much into music and I dance. That the music is really what showed me the feelings beyond what I was capable of doing as a young girl. And certain songs would speak to me. And I didn't understand why certain songs I could laugh, certain songs would make me cry.
Emotion. Yeah.
Even
Yes.
church music, especially church music. So I feel like I've been connected for a long while. Not till I got into my late teen years did I really start delving into what it meant to connect.
That sounds amazing. And while you're talking about all of this, I'm totally getting the chills over here because I feel the same about the music thing. The music, I love music. And I've mentioned this before in other episodes where I love to go listen to loud in your face live music. And
Yes.
that's how I relax, but the vibrational part of it and the words, of course, too. So that's great. So I really resonate with that connection with music because I have that same thing. So once you kind of figured this all out, what kind of tools did were you resonating with, I guess?
So I delved into it totally for knowledge's sake. Um, I didn't go out and buy a bunch of books. I didn't go collect a bunch of crystals. But I
Okay.
did meet a friend of mine who helped me through my spiritual journey
Uh-huh.
at that point forward. She was very much into rocks and stones and
Mm-hmm.
extra energies that they would provide. And I kind of understood that, but it was about the trauma in my life that taught me more than carrying around a certain stone
Okay.
that would bring me through it,
Uh-huh.
if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yes.
Um, Great knowledge, great feelings when I pick up certain stones. You can get those feelings off of them, especially hematite. It's cold and it's fabulous. But so Velty is who she is.
Uh-huh.
She kind of started me with the tarot.
Mm-hmm.
I went to visit a psychic friend of hers at one point that scared the devil out of me, I have to say. Um, and that's kind of how I got started. All in the mix of that, though, I had the music going, and trying to do music for a living
Okay.
is really hard to do, especially if you sing an emotional song and all of a sudden you can't sing anymore.
Right,
That's a
because
bad,
yeah,
yeah,
it
because you
affects
feel
you.
the song
Yes,
so
yes,
much.
yep.
But again, I think it's more my life lessons that have sent me onto my spiritual path and
Mm-hmm.
make me go deeper and deeper. I think trauma response does that to us. And you
Absolutely.
have to look deeper. You have to look for that divine intervention, or it'll make you lose your mind. And spirit is definitely what intervenes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. I don't want this to be a recollection of bad traumas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But really, that's kind of what set me over the edge. My dad was a huge country music fan,
Okay.
so I learned the countryside from him.
Mm-hmm.
That was always storytelling and, you know, just good old home home music.
Right.
You know, like sitting on the front porch with the banjo and the guitar kind of stuff.
Yep.
And that left me a different emotion about my dad. It
Mm-hmm.
made me see him a different way based on the music that he listened to.
Oh, interesting.
My mom was the same way. She was very much into Motown, R&B, and that taught me a lot about her as well, you
Uh-huh.
know, from the women that she would listen to from back in that day.
Yes.
This is going to sound insane. So when I was like 6 months old, I developed spinal meningitis,
Okay.
and my fever was a little over 105.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So my theory is at that point, when you're on the brink of death and you're 6 months old, you don't even know how to speak English yet.
Right.
How do you pray? How do you communicate about anything?
Oh, I'm getting the chills.
Right?
Yes.
So, and through my years of therapy, I mentioned that to one of my doctors, and he's like, don't discount that so much, because you do, if you have a traumatic brain injury, something that you can definitely therapy out of,
Mm-hmm.
but that it would definitely have a little bit. And I feel like I was kind of close to death.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And you remember this? Like, do you have recollection or?
I have a thought that makes me claustrophobic,
Mm-hmm.
because they had me in an incubator.
Okay.
So nobody could touch me. It was like the boy in the bubble kind of thing.
Oh my, wow.
So I just remember, and I don't know that I remember the incubator itself.
Right.
But I remember that claustrophobic feeling.
Yes.
And so now that's followed me for my
Okay.
life.
Okay.
Yes, that's always fun. But I think that made me stop and think deeper when I really started talking. Like, for example, one day I was in the room watching cartoons on a Saturday morning, and my mom was in the kitchen, which you could see through to the den,
Uh-huh.
you know. So she's in there doing her thing, and she said she looked at me and she's like, Kathy Lynn, what are you doing? Because I had one ear down to the floor.
Yes.
We had a wood floor, and I was not on the rug doing it. I was on the wood floor
hard floor.
doing it.
Yeah.
She said, what in the world are you doing? And I said, shh, I'm listening to the devil talk.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so my mom's like, I never
Yeah.
quite approached you the same way about things from that point on.
You probably scared the crap out of her, right? Like, who is this kid?
Scared the devil out of myself even. And then there's another thing that makes me go deeper into my psyche and into my spirit, is that I'm adopted.
Oh, okay.
And so it wasn't like I didn't have innate similarities with the family that I grew up with. My sister's Japanese. We were both adopted.
Okay.
Right? So, but being adopted when you don't really, like, I just didn't click all the time with my family members.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if that makes sense.
I think it does.
We loved each other. There was a lot of love in my household.
Uh-huh.
But, there's just something that's off. And my sister and I definitely experienced that, not being biological children from the parents that raised us. And that has left me searching for a lot of things. So I have delved off into numerology, rune stones, and tarot. I'm not so much into people predicting my future or portending something that's coming. Because I kind of like to figure that out on my own. And that leads me back to the rune stones.
Okay, yes.
Go ahead.
So, well, I wasn't familiar with rune stones until Kathy brought them with her. And so I thought, oh, this is something new that I'm totally haven't had an experience with or really know anything about. And she brought her rune stones with her, and she did a short little reading with her rune stones today before we started filming. And I'm telling you, it was great and right on. We did past, present, and future, right? And it was very interesting. And again, I loved every part of it. But so why the rune stones for you?
So I'm a big girl. So I've always identified with Viking women. And
Okay.
that's always kind of my self joke, right? I'm from the Amazon or I'm from the Viking Nordic area.
Okay.
Um, did my ancestry DNA, turns out I'm from Scotland.
Oh my gosh.
So it's not too far,
Right, right.
from the guys.
Yep, yep.
But they're Viking runes.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not really Norse mythology, but kind of Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
The card in the tarot deck, I think it's the Fool. Isn't it the Fool is hanging upside down?
Maybe. I'm not too familiar with all the.
If you look at a standard deck of tarot,
Uh-huh.
the guy that's hanging upside down from the tree, on the ground are all the runestone symbols.
Okay, okay.
So runestones have been around even through people that did tarot. Runestones have been around and intermingled with those for quite some time, over the
Interesting.
centuries. The runestones are about consulting yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because I know we all know what we think we're supposed to know, and we
Yes,
seek to
yes.
know it, although we already knew it. And the rune
Right.
stones will pull that out of you and validate things that, maybe you didn't know it was spirit talking to you. Maybe you thought it was just some random
Thought that
thought
you're having.
process. Yeah,
Yeah.
your
Uh-huh.
subconscious playing tricks on you or whatever. And but no, it's real, because we all know there's so much of our brain that we don't use.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be some kind of functioning in there to level up with the spirit world.
I agree that the subconscious or the intuition. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do. I think we need to level up to the spirit world, and it's hard to do
Yes.
because we're in the physical element, you know.
Yep.
You can only be spiritual so much, before you lose touch with reality, right? And
True. True.
we all have to keep that band of reality running through what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have spirit talking to us and we're not sure that that's truly spirit, go to the rune stones and ask them, and
That's
it'll tell
great.
you. You can do yes or no. If
Oh,
it's
so
if
just ask a question like you would like with tarot.
Yeah, and if it's
Okay.
right side up, then
Uh-huh.
that's an affirmative, and if it's upside down, then that's
Okay.
negative.
Yeah.
Um, that's really how Velty started me. She was like, "I'm gonna do it easy, really simple." Um, so she'd say, "Okay, you hold my deck and you ask it a question,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll spread them for you, and you pick the card, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And it was spooky how eerie it was that I had had the same answers come to me in my head and not trusted them. And then all
Right.
of a sudden, in the physical world, there it is in front of you,
Right.
like a little piece of evidence.
The validation that we need, right?
Yeah,
To confirm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like, you were just talking about how the physical world now, we are so distracted by what's going on around us or just trying to survive,
Mm-hmm.
right, while we're
Mm-hmm.
living. And I just, it would be my hope for everyone that we could all, connect to that spirit side and, whatever tools we need to use to help us, because there's just so many ways that spirit can help us if we would just listen.
Right. If we can be assured of who we're hearing,
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's just, a believer in God is going to discern the voice of God at some point
Mm-hmm.
in their practice,
Yep.
right? But in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, it's not easy. And just like that rune that you pulled first, it's the blank rune, it's the
Yes.
unknown.
Uh-huh.
That's where you're still, just be still,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll come to you.
Yes.
And our
Yep.
world does not offer that. It offers instant gratification on every level
So
of
much
every
these
possible
days.
thing you could
Yeah.
want in life these days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to get that stillness and really listen. So that's another reason the rune stones are good, because I know it's always contacting myself.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not based on needing to have clairvoyance
Mm-hmm.
or mediumship or any of those things. It's just for me, it's just about the self,
Yeah.
about that self warrior.
And that makes sense. Yeah, I was quite, I get, I always say I always get freaked out because I do. I mean, we still get freaked out, even though I totally believe that spirit communicates with me and stuff, but we still freak ourselves out when situations happen. And this was another kind of freak out moment for me because they were exactly right on with my past, present, and future path that I believe I am on today. And again, it was a great validation. Yeah, that's
I'm glad
amazing.
they did that for you.
Yeah, I was kind of nervous, which is silly because I've had many a psychic reading. I've had, the tarot. Excuse me. I work with my crystals. Spirits talk to me, but even I guess it's probably the unknown, not having experienced that before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a great experience. Excuse me. So it sounds like maybe rune stones would be good for people, or a tool for people to use that, like you said, want to go into their self, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of maybe going to somebody and having, a psychic do a reading, or, someone doing tarot for them.
Right.
So they almost kind of sound like they're like a personal,
it's very simplified.
And yes.
The spiritual warrior always contacts the self first.
Okay.
Because from that spirit comes every action and reaction that you are going to create in your universe from that point forward.
All right.
So you need to know for yourself, what is self really made of? Mm-hmm. How does myself really feel about tarot?
Right.
Does that speak to me like runestones could? Mm-hmm. And all of the other, I've got a deck of moon cards that are just wonderful because it tells you through the cycle of each moon, even in the month that it occurs in, what kind of energy you can draw upon at that moment. And it's been amazing to me when I forget to pull one of them. And I go that night after my day is over, I'm like, whoop. Of course,
hello,
I knew that.
Yeah.
So again, I think those of us who do spirit and are seeking that divinity, I think we have a lot of that contained within ourselves. And so that's why the runes work for me, again, is because it goes back to consulting the self.
Yes. And that's great. I lost my train of thought, but I don't know. I feel like, I guess I'm going to say validation and stuff again, but excuse me. Just looking in and validating yourself, right? With what you're feeling or experiencing. And yeah. Do you use or consult with your runestones often? Or do you just consult with them when you feel like...
No, I like to wing it.
Yeah. When you feel the need kind of thing?
Yeah, and then I can always come up and ask for it to tell me something about my past, and it is usually just right on like it did yours.
Yes, yeah.
And so I give them a break. Mm-hmm. I like numerology. So numerology is quick. It's right there in your head. You can do that quick. You don't need anything else. And numerology makes my days make sense.
Okay.
So I do not consult the runes as often as I used to.
Okay.
I think because the older I get, the more awareness I have of what is spirit and what isn't.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that way too, that the older I've become more connected to, I feel like, I guess we become maybe more advanced with...
Yeah, well, wiser.
In a sense.
I think
yeah,
we're
wiser.
wiser.
Yeah, that's a great word. Yes.
So some of the chatter and the clatter goes away.
Yes.
When you get a little bit older, so it's not, you don't squirrel all the time.
Yeah. That makes total sense. I love that.
I mean, this is the oldest I've ever been, so I'm not speaking from experience. But yeah, I do. I feel like I have a different understanding. I have a different appreciation level to it. when you're young, you're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, let's do a tarot reading. Let's do this. Let's do that.
Right.
And I definitely was like that. But I'm responsible for what I know. So I go
Mm-hmm.
back and I think of all those readings and I'm like, God, no wonder I've been tested so much because I've been given all this information and I'm responsible for what I know.
Right.
And if I've been given information and I choose not to deal with it or put my dose of reality to it, from
Mm-hmm.
what that thought could have meant,
Mm-hmm.
um, I feel like karma comes,
Yeah.
you know? So I'm glad that I'm finally getting caught up on some of the readings I had when I was younger,
To where they make sense and stuff.
where it's no longer happening in front of me,
Okay.
where I
Okay.
can think about it and I'm like, oh, yeah, like Nita Lee told me that pipes were going to be surrounding me my whole life.
Pipes.
Pipes. And I looked at her
Interesting.
strange and she said, so I want you to always be careful when you're
Uh-huh.
driving past a semi that has piping loaded on the back.
Oh my
So this has
gosh.
terrified me for my entire life since she told me. And
I'm sure.
so now I see I get up behind a truck and a truck will move and in front of it will be something with pipes on it. I'm like, I don't want to be behind them. I have to punch it and go around them or
Right,
something.
right.
But yeah, that's haunted me for my whole entire life. And I don't know what it was supposed to mean.
Mm-hmm.
There still hasn't been anything in my life that says, oh, yeah, this is when Nita was talking about those pipes.
Right. What? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I don't even like to drive by semis now. I'm always like, I want to get away from them because they freak me out.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
afraid they're going to tip over on top of me when you drive by them.
Especially when it's windy.
Yes, yes, it's scary. It's scary.
Well, in Oklahoma, we are the crossroads. So I-40 is running north and south, and I-35 runs east and west. So we're at that crossroads. So I-35 is full of semi-truckers.
Oh, wow.
So I commute on I-35 every day.
Oh, jeez.
And I have to drive with these guys. And if you know the road rules for a semi, they're good to drive with. But
Yeah.
if one shows up and it's got pipes all over it,
You're like, I'm out.
I'm avoiding it like the plague. Yes. Yes.
That's funny. Funny, not funny, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a legit fear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
More ironic.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So do you do readings for people all the time? Or do you just help like friends that maybe come to you, or do you maybe offer a friend, like if they're having a rough time, do you say, hey, what,
Yes.
like if you get a feeling, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
If someone needs help that maybe needs some insight or something.
So I'm at the point of my life where I'm not making a whole lot of new friends.
Mm-hmm.
This is about being with those people that have longevity within my life.
Yes.
Now, having said that, I believe it's dangerous to do readings for your friends
Oh,
because you know them better than they might know themselves.
this is very true. Yeah.
And the language that you use and the words that you speak and the directions that you give them are all very applicable to what they're going to do. Now, do you want to be responsible? Because they're responsible for what they know.
Yes.
And if you've told them something that they weren't maturely able to handle,
Yep.
then you've created a situation that's not going to go well for somebody.
Yeah.
So I try not to do tarot for my friends. Rune stones I'll do all day long for them because I know how they are and I know what the runes are going to tell them.
Yes.
I don't have to put my own personal flair to it. Like we just read out of the book.
Right. We
Right?
read out the, yes.
So
okay. Yeah.
So I'm not,
It's the stones are pulling and then the book telling the story.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of
So
you personally.
I'm
Yeah.
personally responsible for that knowledge I'm sharing with them, but they're responsible for what they know, but we've both heard the same thing.
Right.
We're guided by those runes the same way, especially if it's a friend you're doing it for.
Yeah.
Right? You and I just met.
Right.
and it was on point.
It was 100% on point, people.
So
100%.
imagine that doing for your friends.
Yeah.
And you already know kind of situationally where they would naturally gravitate towards, and the runes will definitely affirm it for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So what Kathy had me do is they're a bag of rune stones, and she had me put my hand inside them and feel around and get to know them, as she said. And then I had to pick 3 out of the bag, past, present, and future. And that's what I did. And then we went through the book and read what each one meant. So again, a very, very cool experience. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you would like to talk about, or with your journey, or anything else messages for anybody out there?
I have to say, when you lose your parents, you start adulting differently.
Yeah.
And I think everybody needs to give themselves a chance to work through that grief fully. That this is only my offering of advice, is to work through your grief thoroughly, because it will show up in the weirdest parts of your life, and it will create havoc. I used my rune stones a lot since 2015. I still haven't processed all the grief from my mom dying.
Yeah.
Even though I found my natural mom now.
Okay, so that was your
my
adopted
mom, my mother. I call her mother.
Yeah, of course, because she was your mother, right?
Yeah. So she died in 2015.
Okay.
And it's been a long journey to figure out how to help myself without my number one fan on the earth.
Without the support.
I will say there is a lady named Cindy. She has a website, or a Facebook page rather, called Spirit Fair.
Okay.
With Cindy. And she does angel messages.
Yes.
And you and I talked about this. I'm like, what if I'm on the other side? I've passed away and someone wants to talk to me. And God's like, you're in trouble now because you took time out to talk back to someone on earth.
Right.
You know, I just wonder, if you're busy, and you're knocking, hey, I've got someone here that wants to talk to you.
Yep.
But I went to one of her angel messages and my mom came through.
Oh, good.
And it was strange because my dad was always the one that would step up and say something to get things started. And when she came up and said CC, she kept saying CC. Well, that was my dad, Charles Christian.
Oh.
But she said CC isn't here for themselves. They're here for someone else. And then she said the R. I'm like, well, my mom is Rosemary. She goes, well, then this is for you. And she proceeded to, my hair was standing up.
Yes, I'm getting the chills
Tears
too
were
right now.
rolling down my face,
Right.
and she used some of the language that only my mom, since the day I knew who you were.
Yep.
When she adopted me, and it blew my mind.
Right.
So at least I know my mom is close, and that's helped me a little bit more with processing that grief, to know that she is still there and she does still have a hand in things that are going on in my life.
Yeah, support and guidance. Yeah.
So that would be my only word of advice, is if you have to go through grief, which we all do.
Yep. At some point.
We all lose people along the way. Tell them you love them while you can, because that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And then really love them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's beautiful. I've mentioned this in other episodes, but I lost my sister before her time. She was 39. And spirit really is the way I got through it, and with the grieving and stuff. I don't think if I didn't have, I'm going to get emotional, the beliefs and things that I do in spirit, and I talk to my angels a lot, it would have been way, way, way more difficult to get through that and process that. So thank you, Spirit, for helping me get through that. And she comes and she haunts us in a good way. And I love that when I feel her or playing tricks on us, because she does. But anyway, So yeah, life is precious, right? So precious.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And it's fleeting.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, thank you, Kathy,
Yeah, thanks for having
joining me. And hopefully I did okay with this new video test stuff.
Oh, me too, y'all.
She was fabulous, very calm and
Camera
great,
shy.
great. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for taking time with us. And remember, if you have a subject you want to talk about, if you have questions, if you are interested in being a guest and sharing your story, please go to howdoyouspirit.com, and we have a contact space on there. Fill it out. We want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. I want to interview you. We want to get everybody's stories out there because, like me, I had no idea about runestones, and here we are talking about it, and I learned something new, and I love it. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon.